Have you ever humiliated someone or been humiliated in the name of bonding or to join a group? Do you think that traumatic experiences bring you closer to the people who you experience them with? What makes you feel included in a group? And why do you think rituals like hazing and humiliating the people who are trying to join a group have persisted for so long? Are they effective? Hi, welcome to my podcast. Anyone can experience hazing. And when I say anyone, I mean anyone. I hope leaders of organizations are willing to make a change and stand up to the types of injustice within their groups. But this isn't just for fraternity and sorority presidents. It's also for athletic team captains, coaches, club presidents, anyone with a leadership position, or anyone who wants to be a leader someday. I think this message is important to hear. Even if you leave without holding a position to your name, I bet someone looks up to you. I'm going to give you some backstory on hazing, tell you the different ways that we see it, why we think people haze, and then I'm going to teach you about how we can work together to intervene and to replace hazing with something way better that doesn't harm anyone. Say what? So, let's get into it. We might think that hazing happens to weaker individuals who do not often stand up for themselves. That is not the case. It can happen to anyone. I want to first start by telling you guys about Colin Wyatt. As shared by his mother, Kathleen Wyatt, during her TEDx, we learned that for the last weeks of Colin's life, Colin was beaten, belted, waterboarded, and forced to take drugs. Colin was hazed. Kathleen goes on to share more information about hazing, but she starts by saying that Colin always stood up for the underdog and that Colin himself was a leader. He was someone that people looked up to. And unfortunately, Colin died during a hazing incident within his fraternity at his university. Kathleen shares, hazing starts small, leaving is hard, so victims might try and tough it out. Victims are shamed. Hazing uses the appearance of consent to keep outsiders from interfering. Another thing that I think is really important to share is that hazing builds slowly. So a lot of people might not be aware that it's happening until it's too late. She goes on to tell us about the creeping normality. It's when objectionable change is accepted if it occurs in small increments. This means that it isn't starting with intense reported experiences or deaths. It's starting with, hey, can you take my test for me? Hey, can you do my homework for me? Can you drive me here? Can you do little things? It's kind of like the foot in the door technique. People are more willing to say yes to bigger asks or bigger requirements when they start by doing the small ones. Kathleen encourages her audience to mandate their members to do anti hazing lessons prior to joining any sort of group. We only usually hear about hazing when it results in death, like Colin's. But his story is the tip of the iceberg. We don't hear about the near deaths and the shame and the trauma and the injuries that people do experience. 55% of college students and organizations reported experiencing similar trauma to hazing when asked. However, hazing only is reported about 5% of the time, meaning it goes unreported 95% of the time. So, what does it look like? I mean, some of the most common forms include social isolation, sleep deprivation, verbal, sexual, physical abuse, and forced alcohol and drug consumption. People in positions of power often use hazing because they want to assert dominance, gain control, and to reinforce the group hierarchy. I mean, the people who are hazing are usually people who have been hazed themselves. Oftentimes, they justify hazing as bonding, team building, or building group unity. But here's the thing, evidence doesn't back that up at all. Research from Allen and Madden found that the more hazing activities that athletes reported experiencing, the less cohesive they said that their team felt. What does this mean? It means that hazing isn't building unity, it's actually destroying the unity. So, here's my thesis. Are you ready? Okay, hazing doesn't work. Different kinds of goals do work, where groups work together for a goal called superordinate goals. Hazing has been normalized through social pressure and tradition, not because it works. So, my idea is that if we can replace it with something that does work, we have a shot at stopping it. And people are still going to claim that it helps them feel more loyal to their group, helps them build toughness, and that it's a tradition. I get that belief because it does run deep in a lot of organizations, but I don't agree with that because there's no consistent evidence that hazing improves group bonding or unity. What the evidence actually shows is that it leads to decreased liking among members, distrust, and reduced psychological safety. It also leads to higher attrition and dropout rates. So, current prevention methods that we have right now are legislation, online education modules, bystander intervention programs, but those haven't been enough. And why? Because awareness of hazing doesn't prevent it. I think we need intervention. We need something to replace it. I want to teach you about superordinate goals, a theory rooted within social psychology that originated from Muzafer Sheriff in 1954. Sheriff conducted a study with 11 to 12-year-old boys at a summer camp and divided them into two groups. After letting the group spend time building unity within their own group, he started introducing competition between the two groups. The two groups started to have more and more and more conflict and in-group biases. They would fight with the other group, call each other's names, and stereotype the other group. To try and reduce this conflict, Sheriff encouraged both groups to hang out with each other, spend time together, and eat meals together. But his efforts didn't help. Sheriff then introduced superordinate goals as a possible solution to the conflict. Goals that were important for the summer camp, but could only be achieved when both groups had to work together. He had them once obtain water together during a water shortage, and another time work together to pay for a movie that they wanted to both watch. These goals, slowly but surely, started to reduce the conflict. He started noticing increased cross-group friendships, and the boys started thinking positively about the other group. You might still be like, what the hell is a superordinate goal? What are you saying? Well, let me tell you. Superordinate goals are shared objectives that require cooperation to achieve, and it shifts the focus from suffering to collaboration. Here's some evidence on the effectiveness of superordinate goals from Kirkland and his colleagues. Focusing on common goals, lower biases, foster interdependence, build a shared identity, and reduce the us versus them mentality. The big idea is that unity is built through cooperation, not harm or competition. Some examples of superordinate goals that can be used within specific organizations are, for example, fraternities and sororities could host a campus-wide community service day. They could plan a formal or alumni weekend that every member has a role in executing. They could use mentorship-based onboarding, sort of like the Big Little experience, but without the hazing. Sports teams could focus on winning a championship or reaching the playoffs. They could focus on breaking a long-standing school or program record or fundraising for new equipment or to travel somewhere together. And any organization or club can find a superordinate goal that works for them. The idea across the goals is that it's compelling enough to override subgroup tensions and impossible to achieve without interdependence. And that's what makes it truly superordinate, rather than just shared. I think that superordinate goals would effectively build social cohesion within any group organization, whether or not they partake in hazing. Finding a way to foster interdependence and reduce biases will give groups a way to grow closer and stronger that doesn't involve conflict and being mean to one another. So, I'm going to bring it all home for you, because here's what I need you to walk away with. We started with the question, do you think traumatic experiences bring people closer together? Does hazing work? The answer, backed by decades of research, is no, they don't. What brings people together is a shared purpose, a goal that matters, and the experience of needing one another to show up and reach that goal together. Hazing has persisted, not because it works, but because no one has replaced it with something better. Until now, you have the framework, you have the evidence, and if you're in a position of leadership, formal or not, you have the responsibility. I am calling you to do something. And here are the steps. Step 1, look at your organization's onboarding process. Be honest with yourself. Is any part of it designed to humiliate, isolate, or harm any of the new members, even a little? Even if it's a tradition. Hint, if you wouldn't feel comfortable telling your mom or dad or grandma about the onboarding process of your group, it might entail some hazing and humiliation practices. Step 2, identify one superordinate goal your group could rally around together. One thing that requires every single member, new and old, to show up and contribute. Reach out to alumni and parents in your community. Work with your organization to make the world around you a better place. Step 3, start the conversation. Share what you learned today, because change doesn't happen from prevention classes and laws against it. It changes because of intervention and speaking up. For the better future of your organization and for the mental and physical well-being of your peers, it happens when someone in a room, someone like you, decides to say, we can do better than this. If Colin's story taught us anything, it's that hazing doesn't discriminate. It can take anyone, and it doesn't have to. The research is clear, the solution is real, and the only thing left is the choice to use it and to make that change. So if you're a leader, lead differently and see what happens. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If this episode has moved you or given you something to think about or reflect, share it, because someone in your life might need to hear it. Start the conversation so that we can start the intervention. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me.